When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to BodyWorkBoxing.
Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to BodyWorkBoxing. Man, oh man. Yesterday, I had the privilege of actually sitting and listening to one of the major, shows that come on the internet. And, I find myself like this all the time because I'm an 80-20 guy. Can't help but reiterate that. 80% of the stuff I be rocking with. The other 20% is like, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So, they're talking. And, they're talking about champions and pound for pound. And, pound for pound is just a hot topic right now. I think people, it's a triggering topic. And it's really one of a bunch of controversy. Because, some people want to put everybody but the people that deserve to be on there, and then some people justify why they're on there because they have a bias. And so there's one show I was watching with, and I watch the show all the time. I rock with it, 80% of it. 20% of it is like, man, I wish we could clip that off. But in this episode, the star of the show was talking about Earl Spence, was also talking about Tank. And people in the chat were literally arguing with this dude because he was discrediting Errol Spence and the fact that saying, what champions have he stopped? And, he's not doing that. And, he hasn't stopped any champions. And somebody had to actually remind him, like, hold on, what are you talking about? Who are you talking about? He stopped Kell Brook to get his first belt. And in all actuality, he just stopped Ugas after everybody said he's not the same and, all this nonsense, right? So I got to thinking, because in one breath, people talk about how spectacular these knockouts are and how Bud just be stopping everybody at 47. And it's something that I've been discussing all the time because when I was still trying to decipher who was better than who, I used to do a lot of videos on Bud, and then it got to the point where Bud did something and I was just like, I was like, man, I'm done with the Bud. It's triggering. I think he uses a certain target audience to his favor when it favors him. And then outside of that, he does everything to avoid or disrespect this target audience. I'm not going to go there. That's not what the show's about. However, in my analysis, I got to look at everything and I said, hold on, wait. Because they showing how Terence, just savagely stopped Kell Brook. And it's no offense against Kell Brook. Kell Brook has, I'm not going to say he's become one of my favorite boxers, but he's one of my most respected boxers. I look at Kell Brook and I have nothing but respect. I know that he has a good skill set and he has attributed, many things to the sport of boxing. But I'm going to use him, and this is not a slight to Kell Brook. But we got to think. Because a partner of mine was bringing up the fact that he's never been the same ever since he went up and fought Gennady Golovkin. Duly noted. I just want to give a caveat that was nothing but Eddie Hearn. Kell Brook, since Eddie Hearn was his man, he wanted to look forward to him. Eddie Hearn basically fed Kell Brook to Triple G. I'm not going to get into it because he didn't have any business going up to fight to fight Triple G. He didn't. However, that happened and Triple G broke his orbital bone. He heals up, he comes back. At this point in time, Kell Brook is the man. So when I look at it, because people say, oh, he was winning. A lot of people say he was winning up until Bud stopped him. A lot of people say, oh, he was winning up until Earl, did whatever. But when I look at it, the perception is that Bud devastatingly stops Kell Brook. And the perception is that, oh man, Earl, it was a stoppage, but Earl, he didn't do as good as Terence. But I challenge anybody that's listening to this perception versus reality conversation. The perception is that, oh man, the big bad Terence Crawford who can switch hit and do this and this and that, he's devastating all these fighters, that he's just on a knockout streak, knocked out every welterweight he's faced. But we never really we kind of looking at the level of competition, but then we never give credence to the fact that many of those guys were the main ones, and Sean Porter and Kell Brook, they had already faced Errol. They were already several years removed from when they faced ERROL. But we give no credence to that. ERROL gets no respect for that. Years before, this was years before. When ERROL fought Kell Brook, this was several years before Bud fought him. And when I look at the knockout, I would say 100%, because I'm a reality-driven person, that Errol Spence made a way bigger statement than Bud when he fought Kell Brook. When we look at it, Errol Spence broke Kell Brook's other orbital bone. A lot of people speculate that he broke his ribs, but let's just say he broke him. You are a broken fighter when you take a knee and you put your arm up as to say, do not hit me anymore, as opposed to getting devastatingly stopped. It's a much bigger statement. It's voluntary. As a boxer, you know that that's how you put your food on the table. That's how you butter the bread. That's how you feed your children. So if a man makes you get on one knee and put your arm up and says you don't want anymore, that's a way bigger statement than you devastatingly knocking him out. And I'll give you one other instance. If we were in jail, then it was a hairy situation. You have to knock my ass out. I will never voluntarily get on a knee and submit and concede defeat to you. So while we have content creators who have favorite fighters who really don't give a credence to certain fighters because of their bias. In the particular instance when I talked about earlier, let's just say the sideshow host, let's call him King Talk Sammy. Let's say King Talk Sammy had to correct the star player, which is the host of the show, the main host or originator of the show, in that just because you don't like these fighters, we're not going to overlook them. And we see this a lot of time when it comes to content creators. If it's a fighter that they like, oh, they'll tell you all the intricate details. They'll justify why they need to be on pound for pound, and why pound for pound, and why they're better than this fighter, and why they're better than that fighter. But the responsibility portion is often left out when they don't particularly care for a fighter. Like this particular host actually bet against Errol Spence when it came down to him and Ugas. He put money on it. So he was overlooking the fact that Errol Spence went, and he has been picking up every stone, just like one Jermell Charlo, to become a stone collector. So I just wanted to point this out. The perception is that Bud, because he has all these bells and whistles and these gadgets, and he can switch hit, and he's supposed to be so devastating. And Errol Spence is so basic. Let me remind you that when everybody had Canelo, Cinnamon Ginger Alvarez as their pound for pound number one, and he got beat by a guy named Bivol when he was daring to be great, which I say he was daring to be graped, in that it wouldn't age well in these shenanigans that he was doing. He got beat by a guy named Bivol, who, in the words of Floyd Mayweather, would say he was straight up and down with no special effects. A lot of people tend to say that Errol Spence is the same way. He beat the number one pound for pound, and I see it the same way because of the perception of Bud and all these shenanigans and all of these people, and how he fought Sean Porter when he was 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and how people justify the stoppage by Kenny Porter, but then say that somebody like Mark Breland was dead wrong for throwing in the towel and say, oh, that wasn't warranted. Perception. The perception is Mark Breland had to throw in the towel. It was mandatory. The perception is that it was a good stoppage when Kenny Porter threw in the towel against Bud. He was not in the same danger that Deontay Wilder was in when he fought Tyson Fury. The reality is that fight needed to be stopped. The perception in the Bud versus Porter was that fight needed to be stopped and it was warranted. But the reality is Sean Porter could have still fought. He was so frustrated that he was so clumsy and that he got caught timed, and it was a stupid mistake for running in the way he did and getting timed like that. He was embarrassed. He pounded the pavement. He pounded the canvas, clearly showing that he had all his faculties in order and he was just frustrated. And here comes Kenny throwing in the towel when the perception is that was the right thing to do, when the reality was he could have still fought. So, in conclusion, my friends, when Terence Bud Crawford, the perceived best #1 pound for pound, steps into the Mr. Basic fundamentals Tim Duncan in ERROL the True Spence, the reality is going to set in that he is a body snatcher and that he breaks faces and ribs and he makes people submit and quit. Thanks for listening here at BodyWorkBoxing, where we don't take things for face value. We do that body work.
All right, I believe you, but my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
My word, and I do what I do, and he knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if you get down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, right? You know what I'm saying? To the fans and all that.
Great job outside the ring. I'm the fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the clock, so